An original fiction story. There is a moment that most people never see coming. Not because it is hidden, but because they are moving too fast to notice it arriving. Claire had been moving fast for 20 years. She was 38 years old. She had a career that had taken her from a small town in eastern Kentucky to a glass tower in Nashville. She had a salary, a reputation, a 5-year plan that had already become a 10-year plan without her noticing when that happened. She had not taken a vacation in 4 years. She had not cooked a meal at home in 6 months. She had not, in longer than she could honestly remember, sat somewhere without needing to be somewhere else in 45 minutes. And then one Tuesday morning in March, in the middle of a presentation, with 40 people watching, she stopped. Not dramatically. Not with sirens or urgency. She simply sat down. The way you sit down when sitting down is the only honest option left. The doctors told her what she already knew, in the part of herself she had stopped listening to. That she had been running on empty for so long, she had forgotten what full felt like. That her body had been asking her to stop for years. And since she hadn't listened, it had stopped for her. She lay in the quiet of a hospital room for 3 days. 47 work emails arrived. She answered none of them. It was the first time in 11 years she had not answered her work emails. On the first day, it felt strange. On the second day, it felt like nothing at all, which was somehow worse. On the third day, her phone buzzed with a text from her Aunt Bess, 71 years old, Harlan, Kentucky. The kind of woman who had decided long ago that life was too short for unnecessary softness, and too long for unnecessary hardness. The text said, "Heard you were in hospital. Hope you're okay. Also need to talk about the farm. Call me when you're better." She stared at the text for a long time. Then she put the phone face down and looked at the ceiling. The farm. She had not thought about the farm in years. Her grandfather had built the farmhouse on Callaway Road in 1951. 140 acres of eastern Kentucky land. Rolling fields, creek bottom, a woodlot of old-growth oak and hickory that he had refused to log, even when the timber company offered him more than the farm was worth. "Some things you don't sell," he had told her once. She was 6 years old, sitting on a porch railing watching him repair a fence. Even when the price is right. She had not understood him then. She had spent 20 years understanding him less and less. Her mother had grown up on that farm, had left for college, and come back, not because she failed somewhere else, but because the place pulled her. The way some places pull certain people, quietly, persistently, without explanation. When her grandmother died, she had left the farm to Claire's mother. When her mother died, she had left it to Claire. Claire had paid the property taxes every year from her Nashville bank account without thinking about it, the way you pay for things you intend to deal with eventually. She had not been to the farm in 11 years. She called Aunt Bess from the hospital on the third morning. Bess answered immediately, the way people answer when they have been waiting for the call. "They're selling it," Bess said, before Claire had finished saying hello. "Who's selling what?" "The bank, the farm, Callaway Road." A silence. "There are back taxes, Claire. 3 years. Your mother stopped paying them the year she got sick and nobody told you, and now there's a lien, and the county is moving to sell. Another silence. I tried to reach you. I called 6 times. She thought about 47 unanswered emails. About a phone kept on silent because the notifications had become a kind of weather. Constant, undifferentiated, impossible to step out of. How much? She asked. Bess told her. It was not a small number. It was also, she calculated immediately, not an impossible one. When? 3 weeks. She lay in the hospital bed and thought about her grandfather, sitting on a porch railing in 1951, refusing to sell old-growth timber to a company that would have cleared it in a week. I'll be there in 4 days, she said. She drove to Harlan the morning she was discharged. The doctor had given her instructions that amounted, in plain language, to stop. Stop the pace. Stop the hours. Stop treating her body like a machine that only needed fuel. The drive from Nashville to Harlan took 3 hours. And somewhere in those 3 hours, as Georgia pines gave way to Kentucky hills, as the roads got narrower and the exits got further apart, something in her chest began, slowly, to loosen. She turned onto Callaway Road at noon. The road was unpaved, red clay and gravel that pinged against the underside of her car. The farm appeared around a bend. She stopped. She had not planned to stop, but the farm was there, and she was not prepared for what it did to her to see it. The farmhouse sat at the end of a long straight path, lined with old cedar trees her grandfather had planted in the 1950s. 40 feet tall now, standing like patient sentinels on either side of the approach. The house itself was white, or had been white. The paint now faded to the color of old cream, the wide covered porch sagging slightly at the right end. The tin roof rusted to a deep uniform red-brown. Overgrown rose bushes climbing the left side, unpruned for years, their canes reaching the roofline. The fields beyond were unmowed. Tall grass moving in the March wind, pale gold in the midday light. And the old oak tree to the right of the house, the one she had climbed every Sunday of her childhood, was still there, still enormous, still itself. She sat in the car on Callaway Road and felt something happen in her chest. That was not the pressing sensation from the conference room. Something different. The closest word she had for it was recognition. She paid the back taxes on a Thursday morning at the county courthouse. The clerk, a woman about her age who had gone to school with her mother, processed the payment without comment. Then looked up and said, "Your grandmother used to bring us pie at Christmas." "Bourbon pecan," Claire said. "Every year." The clerk nodded. "Glad the farm is staying." Claire had not told anyone she was keeping it. She had barely told herself. But standing at that courthouse counter, with the receipt in her hand, she understood that the decision had already been made. Somewhere on Callaway Road, the afternoon before, in the woodlot, standing among trees that had been growing since before her grandfather was born. She called her office from the car in the parking lot, extended her leave, indefinitely. Her manager, a man who had hired her 12 years ago, listened, was quiet for a moment, then said, "Take what you need." "I don't know how long that is," she said. "Neither do I," he said. "But take what you need." She moved into the farmhouse the following week, with a single carload of things: clothes, books, a cast-iron skillet her mother had given her that she had owned for 8 years and used approximately 4 times. She slept in her grandmother's bedroom. In her grandmother's bed. The same iron frame. The same quilt. The same window that faced east and let in the early light. She slept for 11 hours the first night. She woke to the sound of birds. Not an alarm. Not a notification. Birds. She lay in the iron bed and listened to them for a long time before she got up. The farm taught her things, in the way that physical places teach, not through explanation, through consequence. She learned that the porch boards needed replacing, not because someone told her, but because she stepped through one on the 3rd morning, and caught herself on the railing, and stood there for a moment, reassessing everything she thought she knew about old wood. She found her grandmother's kitchen garden, dormant under the March ground, but present, the soil dark and worked and ready, in the way that tended soil is ready. She found the garden journal in the kitchen drawer. 30 years of planting records. What went in, when, what it yielded. She planted the garden by the journal. She had never planted anything in her life. A neighbor named Aldous, who had been running cattle on the back 40 for decades, appeared in the mornings, did what needed doing, and left. But he did things slowly enough that she could see how they were done, how to read the soil before you worked it, how to set a fence post so it would still be standing in 20 years, how to listen to what the land was telling you about water. She started waking at 5:30, not because she set an alarm, because the farm was awake at 5:30, and she had become, without noticing the transition, a person who woke when the farm woke. She drank coffee on the porch in the early light. Every morning. She watched the mist lift off the fields. She watched the light change on the old oak tree. She watched the creek catch the sun. She stopped carrying her phone in her pocket. It sat on the kitchen counter. She looked at it when she chose to, ignored it when she chose to, and slowly, very slowly, the 47 email feeling began to lift. The doctor had told her to rest. What she found, instead, was something different from rest. Rest was absence. The absence of pressure. The absence of the thing that had been pressing against her chest for years. What the farm gave her was not absence. It was presence. The specific, full presence of a body doing real work in a real place. The way your hands feel at the end of a day of physical work. Not depleted. Genuinely used. The way food tastes when you have been outside since 5:30. The way sleep arrives. Not as a negotiation. Not as something to be managed. But simply as the end of the day. She went back to the doctor 6 weeks later. The same tests. The doctor looked at the results for a long time. Then said, "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." May came to Callaway Road, the way May comes to eastern Kentucky. All at once. Overnight. The fields going from pale gold to deep green between one morning and the next. The rose bushes on the left side of the house bloomed. Old roses. Small, dense flowers. A smell that was nothing like the cut roses in grocery stores. Something deeper, more complicated. The smell of something that had been growing in the same place for a very long time. She found out from Bess that her great-grandmother had planted them in 1938. 87 years of roses on the same wall of the same house. She stood in front of them on a May morning with a cup of coffee and looked at them for a long time. 87 years. The farm had been here longer than anyone she had ever known. It would be here after she was gone. She found that, unexpectedly, completely, comforting. Bess came for supper on Friday nights. She brought things. A pie, a jar of something preserved, information about people Claire had grown up with and lost track of. One Friday in June, she arrived with a woman Claire didn't recognize. Small, 70s, paint-stained hands. Her name was Vera. She had lived on the next road over for 40 years. Had known Claire's grandmother. Had watched the farm go unattended, and had felt it the way you feel it, when something you have loved for a long time is being lost, and you cannot do anything about it. They sat on the porch after supper, in the evening light, looking at the fields and the old oak tree and the rose bushes going dark in the dusk. Your grandfather was a serious man, Vera said, but he knew how to sit. Claire thought about that. I'm learning, she said. Vera looked at her. You're already doing it, she said. She did not go back to the consulting firm. She had known it for weeks before she said it out loud. When she finally called her manager in July, he said he had known it too. What will you do? He asked. She looked out the kitchen window, at the garden, the tomatoes coming in, the beans climbing their poles, the squash spreading across the ground, with the unstoppable confidence of squash. I'm figuring that out, she said. The land did not care about her professional history. The creek did not care about her salary. The old oaks in the woodlot had been growing since 1820 and would outlast every decision she had ever made, or would make. There was something in that. Not humbling exactly, clarifying, a sense of proportion that 11 years in glass towers had quietly erased, and that Callaway Road was, quietly, without asking permission, restoring. She was 38 years old when she stopped. She was 39 when the garden came in. She sat on her grandfather's porch on an August evening with a bowl of tomatoes she had grown herself, in soil her grandmother had worked for 30 years. And she ate them with salt and nothing else, the way her grandmother had taught her when she was 4 years old. And they tasted like the thing she had been trying to get back to. Without knowing, that was what she was trying to do. Some things cannot be built. They can only be returned to. A farm on a red clay road in eastern Kentucky. Old roses on a white wall, a woodlot that a man refused to sell, because some things you don't sell, even when the price is right. The specific quality of air at 5:30 in the morning, when the mist is still on the fields, and the birds are beginning, and the day has not yet asked anything of you. She had been running forward for 20 years, toward something, away from something. She was no longer sure which. What she knew, sitting on the porch in the August evening, with her bowl of tomatoes and the old oak tree going dark against the sky, was that she had stopped. And that stopping had turned out to be the direction she had needed all along.